So this is the Toyota Auris. It's the HSD one, so it's the full hybrid version of it as well. Now I had my doubts about another hybrid from Toyota, because of course I have the Prius as it is. So what was the point? Prius is a 5-door hatchback, this is a 5-door hatchback. But there's a critical difference. This is better. And I know there's a lot of beeps there and a lot of things happening, but basically that's the engine on. Now it's not quite warm yet in here, so you're going to hear a bit of fan noise in the background, but basically there will be no noise at all when you turn the car on. I have the same sort of Power Rangers leg that is in the Prius, and it does share some of the same features around about the cabin, but there is some spectacularly good differences. One is the steering wheel. The steering wheel is much more sporty, much smaller, much more grippy, and I have the best cup holders in the world. There's a cup holder over here and one over the far side. There's nothing here in the middle. They're the best kind of cup holders. And once you put it to D, you just pull away. No noise, no engine note, no nothing happening, and you pull out, and it's pretty quiet. I mean, there's nothing much happening. That's the kind of remarkable bit about a hybrid, is that at low speed it only really uses electricity to get it around. You hear a little, but then when you put your foot down, there's the 1.8 litre petrol engine cutting in. Now, I've always had my doubts about a hybrid, because in Ireland I'm particularly talking about. In the city, I think a hybrid works very well, because you spend most of your time travelling 60 kilometres an hour or less in a city, and that will suit a hybrid car down to the ground, because out on a motorway or out on a big road like this one in the country, you'll find that the petrol engine is permanently engaged to keep the car moving. But the thing is that I don't know what they've done to the petrol engine in this particular one, because I can sit, and I'm just about to achieve 100 kilometers an hour now, and I'm going to put the cruise control on, because when I put the cruise control engaged on there, and this is a hill here going up, right, I'm getting 5 litres per 100 kilometres from this car, and less. Okay? And less. And yesterday, on the motorway, I went up to Dublin, and it sat there doing 4.9 litres per 100 kilometres. That's diesel territory, okay, as fuel economy goes. Right now I'm doing 2.7 litres per 100 kilometres at 100 kilometres an hour. Now I found that the Prius steering wheel and kind of the whole car felt very light on the road, and it just didn't work. My brain could not engage as to how this car could work outside of a city. In a city, yes, but this behaves like a normal Toyota hatchback, an Auris hatchback, just a normal one. But when you slow it down, or you take your foot off these, I'm using 1.3 litres per 100 kilometres. When you take your foot off, now I'm using none at all, zero, nothing, nada. Just turned it off. It turned off the petrol engine there. When you're going around the place on big open roads like I am now, the car seems to be able to pick it up better. It seems to be able to shuttle between the two. Now they've made improvements, massive improvements, somewhere in among the gubbins of the car. They performed some sort of witchcraft or something and made it a little bit more just better in every respect. And this different steering wheel from the Prius has made it a different driving experience too. This one doesn't tend to understeer as much as the Prius either. It tends to just get on with its job and chew up the miles, and everything seems to be good. Now yes, there are some light plastics used around the dashboard and around the cabin. The reason behind that, of course, is because this car is all about economy. And the lighter the car, the more economical it'll be. It's just, that's the way it is. That's the greatest fuel tip I can give you, is to take everything out of your car. Everything. Get the stuff out of your boot, stuff out of your back seat, and you will see a difference in fuel economy immediately. Now when you brake or decelerate, the car begins to charge the battery up again, and you can see the little charge. Instead of a rev counter, you get a charge needle that goes back down and charges, and then goes back up into the kind of green zone. There's 2 green zones. There's a kind of a dark green and a light green, and then there's this power band, which is the white band, and that's when it's engaged. The petrol engine is using a lot of petrol to do that job, whatever it is you're doing. But you find it very quickly settles back down, eco light goes back on and back in the green, and I'm using part-time battery and part-time petrol engine to get where I'm going. When I picked it up, I thought, right, here we go, another hybrid. That's only going to kind of work and won't really work for me because I'm in the middle of nowhere, and it takes a long time to get wherever I'm going. That has completely changed. I really didn't have great expectations, and yes, the engine's a bit coarse when you put your foot down. I'm going to try and hear it of yourself. But there is bags of poke there when you put your foot down, and as soon as you take your foot off, the noise just goes away, and it sits there using electricity to do what it does. It's so efficient. Now there is a little bit of road noise, but again, you see, that's down to sound deadening pads and tricks of the trade that every other car company uses to insulate you from the outside world. But because of weight restrictions when it comes to a car that has to be fuel efficient like this, which that's the object of this car, is to be as fuel efficient as possible. So the tricks they have to use is to make the car as light as possible. That involves removing the sound deadening pads. Over the time I've had the Auris, I have actually enjoyed using it. I have, especially on a trip to the shops, creeping around trying to compete with yourself as to how little petrol you can use to get down to the shops and back. I drove to the shops the other night a good couple of miles on nothing but battery, nothing. Didn't use any fuel at all. The one thing that uses petrol when you get in first in the morning when it's cold is the heater. It has to heat up bits of the car to make it, give you some warm air. So the warmer it is outside, the more fuel efficient the car is going to become. So even over summer, when I turn off everything, just leave the windows open, you'll end up driving on the road and nothing but electricity. So here I am on the edge of a town, just coming into it here, and I am using no fuel, none at all. If you leave it in eco mode, as long as you don't accelerate, it will just use batteries as long as it can. So I'm using nothing now. To keep myself at 60 kilometers an hour, I'm using nothing. This is undoubtedly hybrids coming of age, I think. I think this is far better than a Prius. Much. They've done a lot of work with that gearbox. They've done a lot of work making the new engine, the 1.8 litre engine, instead of the 1.5, which is in the old ones. And they've put it into the right car. This is a 5-door hatchback. And that, I suppose, in my mind, is the trick of the whole thing. That it's in a better car. This is basically the same as the Prius, as to what's in that. A lot more kit in this, mind you, but as standard, I mean. But they've coupled it up to what feels more like a little sporty 5-door hatch, and that's far better. In my mind, it's way better than the Prius. I don't know why. I think it's a steering wheel. For some reason, it's a totally different looking steering wheel in this car. Much smaller, much more sporty feel to the whole steering wheel. And that change has made such a difference to the car. It feels more hatchback-like and less kind of trundly milk float. This one, finally, to me, this Auris Hybrid works. It seems to work. It seems to be able to do what it says in the tin. Prices start in Ireland anyway at about 25 grand. But for that, you get a lot of standard equipment. A lot of standard equipment. A very, very decent amount of standard equipment in the car. So I'm quite happy to say that it is the best hybrid on the market at the moment. And finally, hybrids might be coming of age.